Supposedly unrelated deaths are linked by a man's slip-up confession, unveiling the true extent of his crimes. Join us on today's episode as we discuss the case of Robert Allan Durst.
Hey guys, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed last week's episode. This week's episode is done by
By who? Who is it? Come on, the suspense is killing me. Who is it?
Akmal. Yay!
Oh my god, yay!
Crowd
My
goes
hero.
wild. Okay, take it away.
Robert Allan Durst was heir to a real estate empire his father had built, and a convicted serial killer. In 1982, his wife Kathy McCormick went missing, and due to Robert's suspicious behavior and circumstantial evidence, the police suspected it was him. In 2000, Suzanne Berman, a longtime friend of Robert, is found executed mafia-style in her Los Angeles home. Robert was known to be in the area at the time of her death and had transferred $50,000 to Susan in 2 different payments. The police were notified of her death on Christmas Eve when neighbors reported suspicious activity around the house. 3 days later, the police received a note with the word cadaver written under the address to Susan's Los Angeles home. Susan's father, David Berman, was affiliated with the Jewish mafia, and it was suspected that the mob might have had something to do with her death. In 2001, Morris Black's body was found mutilated and floating in Galveston Bay, Texas. The mutilation looked very precise, and it was thought that whoever did it must have been experienced. Investigators discovered that Morris's neighbor was Dorothy Simon, who turns out to be Robert Durst dressed up as a woman. It was unclear why Durst would kill Morris, as the two seemingly strangers to each other. Durst was put on trial for Morris's murder, when he claimed the mutilation and murder of Morris Black was purely self-defense. He was found not guilty. Durst was released and went into hiding in 2015, despite the advice of his lawyers and his new wife, Deborah Lee Chariton. Robert agrees to allow HBO's The Jinx to shoot a crime documentary on him. As part of the agreement, the documentary crew would have full access to his personal records for research. During the filming of the last episode, Robert goes into the bathroom during a break in production, unaware that the microphone he is wearing is still turned on. Whilst in the bathroom, Robert is heard mumbling to himself, "There it is, you're caught. What a disaster. What the hell did I do? Kill them all, of course." He knowingly incriminated himself on set, and the police were called soon after. He was arrested and extradited to Texas, where his trial will begin. His incriminating remarks in the bathroom were used against him as evidence. Born on April 12, 1943, Robert Durst grew up in a Scarsdale, New York home under relative luxury. His father was a real estate mogul who owned the Durst organization. Being the eldest of 4 sons, Robert was keen to inherit the family business. When Robert was 7, his mother died as a result of a fall from the family's Scarsdale home. He later claimed that moments before her death, his father walked to him to a window from which he could see her standing on the roof. In March 2015, New York Times interview. However, his brother Douglas denied that Robert had witnessed her death. As children, Robert and Douglas underwent counseling for sibling rivalry. A 1953 psychiatrist report on a 10-year-old Robert mentioned personality decomposition and possibly even schizophrenia. Robert Durst pursued his higher education in UCLA in 1965, where he would meet his lifelong friend Suzanne Berman. He dropped out of his bachelor program in 1966. Durst eventually became a real estate developer in the Durst organization. However, his brother Douglas was appointed in 1992 to run the family business. The appointment caused a rift between Robert and his family, which eventually led him to him suing for his share of the family fortune. After the release of Durst from the Morris Black trial, he would often be seen prowling Douglas's neighborhood. So what connects these 3 deaths, and what evidence is there that Robert had perpetrated their murders? It was revealed that Robert's late wife Kathy had asked him for a divorce sometime before her disappearance. Durst was far from a good husband, often physically assaulting Kathy and threatening to cut financial support from her. After Kathy asked for the divorce, Robert cancelled her credit card and refused to pay for her med school tuition fees. It is very likely that Durst had a part to play in his wife's alleged murder, as he did not seem fazed by her disappearance. Only 3 weeks after Durst reported McCormick missing, the superintendent at the Riverside Drive apartment found her possessions in the building's trash compactor. When Galveston County newspaper hired a private investigator to look into Morris Black, she was surprised by her findings. Despite being over 70 years old, there were virtually no records on Morris Black. She discovered Morris had a brother named Harry who had also no records on him and died soon after Morris Black's death. Furthermore, a widow of Harry Black admitted to the PI, the private investigator, that Morris and Harry Black worked for the Durst organization and told her that Harry confessed to her that Morris and him had helped make Kathy Durst disappear. The PI posited that Suzanne Berman knew the Black brothers through her father's mob connections, and that she had recommended they work at the Durst organization, and this is likely how they met Robert. After Kathy's disappearance, Susan was the first person he called. It is likely that due to Kathy's insistence on her divorce that day, Robert had killed her and then called Susan to help him get rid of the body. Susan then sent the Black brothers to dispose of Kathy. They were paid off, as records show. Harry was given a home in Canada along with gold, and Morris had bought an apartment complex. The Black brothers separated from that point onwards and did not meet each other since. Robert likely killed Susan in 2000 due to her knowing the true nature of Kathy's disappearance, as Susan, being a mobster's daughter, would not have let someone get too close to her unless she knew them. Robert then gets paranoid and looks for Morris Black. He knew Morris would be upset about Susan's death and wanted to get rid of him before Morris could rat him out. He came into town dressed up as a deaf and mute woman and rented the apartment next to him. He then murdered Morris and disposed of his body in the Galveston Bay. The evidence for this theory is provided by the widow, who claims that there was a suitcase full of evidence which the family got rid of, as Durst had not been arrested at that point. Many people speculate whether there were other victims of who, as his infamous "kill them all" phrase implies there might have been other victims, and investigators believe he had mutilated someone before Morris Black, as a person who mutilated Morris Black looked experienced. In 1971, Lynn Catherine Schultz is last seen outside a store owned by Robert Durst. She is never seen again. In 1997, 16-year-old Karen Mitchell had gone missing from her home in Eureka, California. Robert is a likely suspect due to his proximity to the crime, and also a composite sketch from a witness claiming to have seen Karen with an old man on the day she disappeared. The composite sketch is a virtual match to Robert's looks at the time. Another link between Karen and Robert was that Robert had visited her aunt's clothing store where he allegedly met Karen. Although investigators are now fully convinced Robert was involved in Karen Mitchell's disappearance, he's still seen as a likely suspect. Robert Durst is still on trial to this day, and the jury is yet to give him a verdict on him.
So it's basically like a sibling rivalry, right? Because that's kind of what I understood from the entire thing.
Really?
Fight for power. Yeah.
That's it? That's all we got from it?
I mean, that's the focal point. That's what I got.
I mean, he murdered his wife, then he murdered some mafia dudes, and then some mafia lady. But then it's a sibling rivalry.
I mean, that was like the, how do I say it? Like the trigger point of something, but like, or maybe it's like his own nature.
That's a dumbass, man. He ratted himself out. Wow.
This was in 19 what?
He murdered his wife in the 90s. He killed Susan in 2000. Morris Black in 2001. His interview was in 2015. So he was an old man, but still alive today, dumbass. Honestly, they should just kill him because of stupidity.
What is he serving a sentence at the moment, or is he alive?
He's still on trial.
Still on trial. Yeah. Okay. What do you think about the case, like going through it when you first researched it?
When I first researched it, That
Mhm.
sounded interesting. Some old man killed so many people.
Well, that was the case if Robert. You say the last name. I can't. Robert what? Okay, I'm gonna put it as blank. Robert blank. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, which is mafia related, which is kind of a different twist also. And see you guys next week. Bye.
Ciao.